talking about, I'm hoping this looks familiar. Using too much too often, making that decision, circumstances, moods, relationships change, our mental and moral quality changes. So what happens is we start changing emotionally, and then over here our character starts changing. So people start viewing us as a person who uses all of that time. We start embodying the emotional being of someone who may use alcohol or drugs all the time. As a result of that, we fail to meet standards of certain people, places, and things. So if you're using that much, that often, you are certainly going to develop some shortcomings. Okay. Those shortcomings are faults or failures in a person's system, character, or plan. So if you are drinking or using, let's say every day, excessive amounts, even moderate amounts, even if you're drinking, let's say this, now keep in mind, this is a high amount. The recommended amount of alcohol that someone should consume per week is 2 drinks. Now, let's say that someone is consuming, just somebody throw out a number of how many drinks you had every day. 8 drinks a day. Ready? 8 drinks a day. If you're drinking 8 drinks every single day, right? You may get a hangover at some point. You may get frustrated and irritable over a period of time. Your character may change. You may think it's okay to have 8 drinks. You may think it's okay to do that on a Tuesday, right? You may think it's okay. And that idea, right? Going back to the concepts or the idea, that idea may fail to meet the relationship with your loved one, the relationship with your family, the relationship with your bosses or your career or yourself, even. So we fail, our character fails, right? And then if you drink 8 drinks a day, maybe your system starts failing. Maybe your body stops breaking down. Maybe your liver stops working at some point, right? Maybe your hormones start changing. Maybe your cortisol gets messed up. Maybe your testosterone or estrogen or whatever the case maybe gets messed up. Maybe your sleep gets messed up. Maybe your who knows, all these, your system, some part of your system gets messed up. And from drinking too much too often and having these mental and moral qualities of somebody who drinks too often, you may fail to have a good plan for your future. We may fail at having a good idea of what a good future may even entail. They say that most people generally plan on an everyday basis for 5 years ahead. They say that addicts generally plan for 2 weeks ahead. And what are those 2 weeks? Like, why are we planning for those 2 weeks? Those 2 weeks are just withdrawals. That's all that is. That 2 weeks that we're planning for is withdrawals. So we're not going to go on vacation. We're not going to go do, out to dinner, maybe even. Why? Because I can't not use. And some people are like, I remember saying, I'm not going to pay $4 for a fucking drink when I can just get shit-faced at my house. And that's a plan to keep me isolated. That's a plan to ensure that I certainly become an addict or an alcoholic. That's not even a safe plan to be a healthy person, right? I am like literally failing at being a healthy person as a result of that. Now, if you continue to fail to meet standards of your relationships, of your marriage, of your parenting, of your employee, if you fail to meet the standards of what it means to have a good job, to be a good employee, if you fail to meet the standards of the roads and you don't drink and drive, or you don't speed, if you speed or some shit, you drink and drive, you speed, you fail to meet those standards, guess what? You're going to have to make amends. Amends are going to be needed. And it gets to a point where a lot of people's amends at this point in their addiction are meaningless. Why? Because we're just going to do this shit all over again. We're just going to drink too much again. We're going to decide to drink too much again. We're going to get angry again. Even if somebody tries to talk to them about their failures, talk to them about their shortcomings. People respond with anger, or they lock themselves into that character quality and they say, well, that's just the person that I am. And you see people saying things like this in active addiction. They say, oh, I'm just hurting myself, or I'm just an alcoholic, I'm just this person, that's why I'm like this way. Or people, walking around on eggshells because they don't want to get you too angry. No, don't say that. Don't talk to them about their addiction, bro. If you talk to them about their addiction, or you talk to them about their problem, they're just going to get mad. It's going to become a whole thing, and it ain't worth it. So what happens? We just continue to fail. We continue to fail to meet these standards. And that has to be made up. Now, even these standards aren't just, maybe, like, think about amends. It's not just with people in our lives today. We have to make amends to people we don't even know. We have to make amends to debt collectors and stuff like that. And if any of this freaks you out on what I'm saying, then stick around. Maybe we'll get to step 9 and you can learn a little bit more about that. Ends up that at some point, we have a list of people that we need to make amends to, but the amends are meaningless. We say we're sorry, but we don't engage in the behavior to back it up, which would make the I'm sorry meaningless. And we live this day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. 8 beers turns into 10 beers, turns into 12 beers, turns into liquor, and yada, yada, yada. To the point where we begin to pray and meditate. Now, prayer and meditation is open for discussion, how you're doing that. Some people just sit there and say, why can't I be normal? Why? How come I have this problem? How can I get out of this? What is going on? And we think we have the answer, and the answer actually isn't the answer, right? So we try to get sober. Our attempts to get sober have failed. We try to make it work. It just doesn't work. And then somehow this idea to come to rehab, maybe we actually say, I am an addict. You actually identify yourself as an addict, and you continue to live that life for a long time. It gets to a point where somebody has a spiritual awakening. Maybe it was from an intervention or a jail sentence or an argument with a loved one or your own misfortune of health or whatever the case may be, that leads someone to say, holy shit, I need help. Wow, bro. I am a raging addict or alcoholic, and I need to get some help. And everybody admitted that in order to get here. Who did you admit that to? Maybe you admitted it to yourself. Maybe you were alone, right? And that, I mean, generally, that is how people end up here, you know? Like, if I was doing this group in jail, guess what I'd say? I'd say, yeah, maybe you were drinking and driving. You know what I mean? I would say, whatever you were doing, you got caught. Like, that would be, if this was a discussion in jail, the whole thing would be on a foundation of you got caught. You know what I mean? And that's what ended you up here. Maybe you also got caught. Maybe you got caught sneaking alcohol. Maybe you got caught, having withdrawal symptoms. Maybe you got caught, lying or some shit like that. And that's what led you here. Something got us to admit it. And I'm just assuming that if you're here, you had a conversation with someone. Typically, people who end up here have a conversation with a person who cares dearly about them, and they end up in a place like this. Not always. Again, how people end up here is very subjective. But I do know that in order for you to get here, you had to talk to somebody and admit you're an addict and you have a problem, and you had to fail a drug test. Like, all of these things had to happen for you to even get in front of me to hear these words that are coming out of my face, right? And you coming into rehab day 1 has a message to share to someone who has day 80, day 90, day 45. Day 45 has something to share. Everybody has their own message to share on their journey of recovery, how they ended up here, etc., etc. Now that we have gotten here and we recognize it, we must continually admit that we have this problem. This is where first step comes in, right? Anybody have any questions or anything so far before I progress into this next part? Okay, fantastic. So that is how we end up getting into active addiction. And I mean, I could continue to draw this, but I didn't continue to draw it. And it ends us up doing this thing that is called we admitted we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. Unmanageable. All right. To admit means to confess to be true. So everybody here has confessed that they, in fact, are an addict or have the disease of addiction. You struggle with addiction, whatever it is, right? We admitted this in order to get here. Generally, the discovery of powerlessness over their addiction is one of experimentation. Often people experiment on their discovery of trying to control their addiction. And if they've ended up here, their experimentation process has rendered them powerless. Had you been able to kick on your couch, you probably would have. Had you been able to manage it on your own or just stop, you probably would have without abandoning just again, I'm just assuming I could be completely off, but without abandoning some major responsibilities you may have. I don't know what those responsibilities are, but I can assure you that if you are in IOP or group therapy or PHP Monday through Friday from 9 to 3 or 9 to 12, you're missing a chunk of your day. You know what I mean? Where you could be managing other responsibilities, which would mean that we currently find recovery from addiction a top priority. It is so important. It is more important than working. It is more important than for me getting my children ready for school. It is more important than, hanging out with my family on Sundays and, picking up my kids from school and making them dinner. It's more important than going to work. It's more important than all that shit, apparently. That is how important this is. That's how serious this is, right? And comparatively to any other disease, I would also render it that serious. If you were struggling with, cancer, I would also recommend that you probably take it pretty fucking seriously and prioritize that shit, right? Now, what is addiction, right? So, real quick, what does addiction mean to you? Like, what does it mean to be addicted to people in this room? What does that mean? I missed that one. Say that again.
No control.
No control.
Serving a master.
Serving a master.
Mental obsession. Physical craving.
Addict means no control, serving a master, mental obsession, physical craving. What else?
Distorted thought process.
Distorted thought process, right? And if anybody's wondering how this happens, you could just go right back to this. This is like the progression of how one ends up with this distorted thought process, right? Like it's pretty well known. Like if you're using that much, you're going to have some physical problems, some physical dependence, some mental dependence, right? Now, addiction, by definition, let me see if I can, to be an addict, let's define it so we can all kind of be on the same page. Physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance, activity, or thing. That's what it would say. and unable to stop without incurring adverse effects. So we're looking at being physically and mentally dependent on a substance, thing, or activity, right? So let's go back to our definition. Well, let me record this one. We'll document this. Enthusiastically devoted to a particular thing or activity. Enthusiastically devoted. So to be an addict is defined as physically and mentally dependent on a substance, thing, or activity and unable to stop taking it without or doing it without incurring adverse effects. So two major things in this definition that I want to focus on is, let's get this color out, physically and mentally. Okay. I heard a definition the other day. I've heard of many definitions of addiction. I've heard an addiction is being obsessed over a chemical or behavior, right? I hear other people say addiction is the narrowing of things that bring us pleasure. And recovery is the broadening of things that bring us pleasure, right? So if you want to be in recovery, try things that make you, feel good or whatever. They can make you, whatever that is. It doesn't have to make you feel great. It just has to make you maybe feel good. Physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance. What does it feel like to be physically dependent on a substance? What's that like?
For me, it just felt like I was caught in this cycle that I was just spinning my wheels.
Okay. What are some symptoms of withdrawal? Lack of sleep, sweats, tremors, shakes, diarrhea, aches. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Aches, right? Lethargic, fucking Jimmy legs.
Headache.
What was it? Headache, right? Now, again, I talked about how the discovery of powerlessness is on a foundation of experimenting with addiction. Okay. Now, if you have a headache, that's not an indicator that you're an addict, right? If you have look at these symptoms. If you have if you're sweating, that's not an indicator that you're an alcoholic. Diarrhea is not an indicator you're an alcoholic. But if you have all of these symptoms, right, then that's weird. You're sick, right? So even all of these symptoms isn't even an indicator that you are an alcoholic, right? Let's just say that these may be an indicator that you're fucking really sick, right? And some people may have experienced this. What may be an indicator that you're an addict or alcoholic is that these symptoms are cured with the drug. Or the alcohol. So the declaration that I am an addict is usually done on the experimentation of curing these sicknesses, these symptoms of sickness, and they get cured with drugs and alcohol, right? That is an indicator that I have a problem. Some people find themselves not wanting to stop. This is where the mental and moral quality may begin to change as well, because people start to think that it is right. I need this the same way I need food, water, shelter, sleep, etc., I need drugs and alcohol to even function. I needed to get out of bed. I needed to get to work. I needed to shower, to cook dinner, to do laundry, to clean my house, to do anything. I am physically dependent on it, perhaps to the point that without it, I cannot function normally. Like if you don't have water, you're not going to function normally, kid. You know what I'm saying? And it gets to a point where if we don't have drugs or alcohol, we're not functioning properly. We're unable to function as a result of our body changing, our system changing, our thinking changing, et cetera, et cetera. Now, let's consider recovery. Let's take all drugs, all alcohol, all everything, put it in a giant melting pot. Okay. So we have a big melting pot of all drugs and the Florida of drugs and alcohol, right? And we extract a common denominator of how long withdrawals last, right? We may have 2 weeks. So I say, on average, your average person who's trying to gain physical independence, right? Like just consider the United States of America. They have to declare their independence. You also must declare independence from this drug. Yes, I need this drug to sleep, but I declare that I no longer will, right? Yes, I if I don't have this drug, then I am going to tram out. Well, you must declare independence from that. You must declare that I am not going to return to that. I don't need your fucking tea. I don't need your goddamn paper, London. Okay. We are going to make this shit ourselves. As a matter of fact, we're going to dress like Indians and take your tea and throw it fucking overboard, known as the Boston Tea Party. For those of you who don't know that, right? Boston, represent. I'm wearing a Boston shirt right now. Can't see it, but it's really cold in here. That's why I'm wearing this. All right, moving on. How long? Now, what was it? What was the amount of time that I said earlier? People may be looking forward to getting the amount of time people want to acquire sober. 1 year. What? If I could get 1 year, that'd be amazing. Oh my God. 1 year sober. Right? Physical withdrawals, as we noted here, account for 2 weeks. Now, if you go through, anybody in here ever had long-term sobriety? Raise your hand. Over a year or less. Let's say 9 months, 6 months, whatever, dude. In that time of you having long-term sobriety, did you ever return to withdrawal symptoms as bad as the first couple days of your sobriety?
Never.
Never. Even anybody ever heard of pause? Who's a person who sits around and thinks about pause all day? Post-acute withdrawal symptoms. They're like, oh my God, 6 months from now, I'm gonna be fucking detoxing so bad. Bro, come on. It is not going to be nearly, oh yeah, not even close to as bad as the first 2 weeks. Like, it is literally impossible. I'm not saying I'm not a believer of pause. I just believe that pause is more of a craving or like a strong, intense desire to use instead of an actual withdrawal symptom. That's just my opinion. Now, I've never done clinical experiments or anything like that. I just think logically, how we feel without the drug, with the drug literally detoxing out of our body, is different than that same feeling 6 months from now. Okay. So let's say that once it's out of your system, you never get sick again, right? Think about that. I'm never going to get sick again. Like, imagine if I gave you the flu and you never would you take the flu to never get the flu again?
Yes.
Okay, fuck yeah, right? Hey, I'm gonna give you the flu, but you never get the flu again. Yeah, I'd probably do that too. The flu sucks. Or even if imagine pneumonia, bronchitis, dude. Some shit like that. You get that, and then you never ever you're immune, right? Imagine being immune to withdrawals, dude. You never ever have to get it again. You never have to experience that again unless you invite drugs and alcohol back into your life. Then you're inviting that in, right? Okay, so if I just stay sober for 2 weeks, then I never feel that feeling again. And just consider the range of this feeling. It may go up on a Tuesday, peak out around there, and then come down to the point that this is 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That is the total duration of that withdrawal, right? Probably peak around 3 days right here. Probably be 3 days, right? And then as that progresses, you see a slowly goes down. Now, if we were going to mark this on a graph that was 1 year, right? Let's do this for 1 year. Back. Ready? One year. What would that look like? It would look like this. I can't even like get it, bro. I can't even. There you go. And then maybe this. A little just a little thing like, oh, post-acute withdrawals. Right? That if you were going to look at a graph of physical withdrawals over a year, including post-acute withdrawal symptoms, that's what it's looking like. You following me? Everybody's with me?
Yeah.
How much of that of my recovery is physical withdrawals? That means that physical withdrawals would account for 4% of 1 year. 4% of 1 year of recovery is overcoming physical symptoms. Okay. The other 96% of recovery is mental. The only thing, dude, you want to learn how to manage your addiction? You want to learn how to be in recovery, all that shit? Then learn how to battle your mind. Learn how your mind works. Learn how what your mind sounds like. Learn what ideas cause me to have a desire to use. 96% of your battle of recovery is going to be thinking using is a good idea. Yo, think about that. And when you go through the steps, right? You're going to see almost every single definition that works through the steps and the things we work with deals with the mind. None of it deals with the body, dude. It's all in our heads. And the more we can learn, and that's why cognitive behavioral therapy is so helpful, right? You want to think about your behaviors. You need to literally think about the behaviors I'm engaging in, even the thoughts, the actual thinking behaviors, the actual pattern of thinking that occurs in my head. If I want to really start honing in on my addiction and been trying to get the most value out of my recovery is not by focusing more on your body and withdrawals and this and that. It's focusing on your mind and how you think and how to change your thinking. and how to allow your thinking to be changed by things. Because our thinking is what got us here. So, in order to change our thinking, you need to allow something to change it for you. You're not in control of your thinking. What your thoughts are, conscious and unconscious, is just your environment. It's just your senses and your body and your brain interpreting your environment the best it can. So if I'm interpreting my environment as there's no way I'm not going to use, I need to change my environment or thinking in order to think that I can stay sober. And if I don't have tools set up to facilitate that thinking, then I'm maybe powerless over my behaviors. For instance, you are not facilitating your recovery. Although you may feel like it, you are not. I'm facilitating your recovery right now. I'm facilitating your thoughts. Even though your thought may go off, you may be thinking about something I said 2 minutes ago. The words that are coming out of my mouth are generally facilitating your thought process, right? Now, you're not in control of how your brain or body responds to what I'm saying. You're also not in control of any changes, long lasting or short lasting, that happen as a result of hearing the words that come out of my mouth. So then, where does the addiction kind of start? I don't know, but when people say, go to meetings, go to get a sponsor, all those are tools to continue the recovery idea being facilitated in your mind. That's all that is. Like when you go to a 12-step meeting, you're spending an hour allowing your brain to be remapped by the experience, strength, and hope of other people who have gone through what you've gone through. When you are calling your sponsor, especially in a moment where you have a desire to use, hopefully you're allowing that person to convince you of otherwise. You're allowing that person to remind you of the track that you're on. That is the biggest battle, is allowing that person to do that. Taking the step towards allowing that to actually happen. Like, you need to believe it's even possible. And that's not only the removal of some ideas, but it's the adoption of new ones, right? I need to adopt the idea that maybe this sponsor can do something for me that I can't do for myself. And everybody had to do that to get here. You've already been doing that. You had to say, maybe this rehab can do something for me that I can't do. I mean, I tried getting sober on my own, tried to do it at home, tried to drink less, tried to do less. It never fucking worked. I guess I'll go to this rehab. People literally Google rehab near me, dude. They Google that shit. You know why? Because it gives them an answer right away, right? Some of these questions that you have aren't Googleable. And maybe they are Googleable. I mean, anything's Googleable, but maybe the answer you want isn't the answer. The answer you get isn't the answer you want. Well, guess what? That's the answer. Take it or leave it. Beggars can't be choosers. You want a cigarette? Oh, yeah. Can I have a cigarette? Yeah. You want a Newport? Oh, no, dude. I smoke Reds. Oh, well, you can go fuck yourself. Go get cigarettes somewhere else then. You know what I mean? Do you want the Newport or not? Generally, people are like, fine, yeah, I'll take the Newport. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, you asked me the question. You want the answer or not? Here it is. A lot of people prayed. One day they were like, I just want to be sober. I just want to be a normal person who just like gets up and just like goes to the bathroom and just goes to work and just does normal things. That's all I want. I don't want any problems. And it's like, whoa, do you believe that this is the journey there? Maybe part of your recovery from addiction is surrendering the idea that you're not already on that journey of becoming that person. Maybe you've already been that person. Maybe you've always been that person. Just alcohol has removed you from that. 96% of recovery is mental. And somebody said it earlier. This is known as obsession. Obsession is defined as preoccupy or fill the mind. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Continually, intrusively, to a troubling extent. So if someone is obsessed over something, their mind is preoccupied or filled by something continually, intrusively, into a troubling extent. In the past, when we have been preoccupied or obsessed with drugs and alcohol, generally the way that people cure their obsession is through the behavior. Like, when we're obsessed with drugs and alcohol in addiction, we get drugs and alcohol. That's what happens. If you're obsessed over an answer, you get that answer. And just consider obsession. Like, how is the obsession preoccupying my mind? Just look at this. Look at this house. Let's draw this house. I'm such a good artist, dude. You guys should go buy my book if you want to know how good of an artist I am. It's called Poppy Seed Poetry, available on Amazon now. This is a garage. Aren't I such a good artist, dude? All right. Should I do some more? A little window up here. Do. Like that? All right, cool. So let's say a little fence. A dog. A little tail. Woof. All right. So let's say you live in this house. What a beautiful house for you to live in. It's such a nice house, isn't it? Oh man, you got a great mortgage on it. You got a great deal. It's amazing. You're going to sell it in a couple years, make a bunch of money on it. It's just an investment more. I really didn't do it for anything. I've been renting it out. It's just an investment property that I got. It's so cool, but I have to stay in it for a little while because my renters moved out or whatever the case may be. And now I'm living in it for a period of time. So let's say all of a sudden, your ex shows up to your house, right? And they are trying to continually get into your home. How would one do that?
Like through the windows?
Windows.
Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, windows, doors, garage.
Windows, doors, garage, right? Maybe knocking, doorbell, right? And maybe they're not getting in. Maybe they're just checking the doors, checking, peeping, and shit like that. You know what I mean? Now, let's say that they're doing this. Let's say this goes on for, bro, I mean, it wouldn't take too long for this to become a problem. But it's your ex, so that's weird. You know what I mean? What are they doing here? I didn't know they knew where I lived. This is fucked up. Do I tell people about it? Do I tell the people I live with that this is these are just things to think about, but they really have nothing to do about my thing that I'm talking about fully. Now, let's say this ex of yours starts intruding. So not only are they continually trying to get in, maybe every day they show up to your house at 9 a.m. and they start trying to get into your house, right? And they are intruding now. How would one intrude on your home? They start getting in. And what are they intruding on? Dinner? Maybe they're intruding on your dinner. Maybe they are intruding on your sleep. Maybe they're intruding on who knows what, right? It may be, if they're continually trying to get into your house to a point where they may be even intruding, hanging out on your couch, shitting in your toilet, you know what I mean? Dirtying up your dishes and shit, right?
That's weirdo shit.
Yes, that's right. That is weirdo shit. That's insane, right? That's insane. Am I right? We can all agree on that. It's so insane that I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'm not showering. I'm not going to work. I need to get this person out of my house, dude. This person cannot be in my house, or else my life is going to become unmanageable. That is your disease of addiction. It might just continue to show up. It may just intrude on you. You may be sitting there having a normal dinner, and all of a sudden the desire to use just shows up. Oh, I want to get high. What the fuck? You know what I mean? I want to have a drink. It would be so, like, you're just sitting there like, wow, it would be so nice to have a glass of wine right now. And you're like, what the fuck? And that glass of wine doesn't go anywhere, right? And you got to understand, this is this is mental obsession. It doesn't care what you're doing. It doesn't care. And it may stay there for 5 minutes. It may stay there for 5, who knows, right? It's going to kick it in. It's going to hang out. And for some people, this obsession gets them in active addiction. They can't go to work. They can't go to school. They can't function as a normal, productive member of society because they can't stop thinking about using, partially because they're going through physical withdrawals. Now, if you're not going through physical withdrawals, doesn't mean we're not obsessing. We're still obsessing over it. I was talking earlier about people looking forward to drinking. They may be spending their whole day at work through withdrawals, knowing that they're going to get shit-faced and binge later on in the day. Where are the doors and windows to your mind? How is this disease of addiction going to get you? Right? That's the next question. So this disease is going to come in. You know what I mean? You're telling me that this idea is going to come into my house, right? It's going to come into your house. Is your brain. It is going to come into your brain. This desire to use, it's going to fill the mind. It's not going to fill your bladder. It's not going to fill your liver. It's not going to fill your lungs, right? It's going to fill your mind. So where are these vulnerable points, trigger points in my brain? They're in your 5 senses and they're in your memories. So where is my desire to use going to come from? It's going to come from seeing alcohol, right? It's going to come from tasting it. Maybe you're going to drink an O'Doyle's because you think you can, because you think it's non-alcoholic. Maybe you're going to have a virgin margarita or some shit like that, right? Maybe, when they took people who ate products with sugar in it, and they ate products with 0 sugar, like a sugar substitute or something like that, like sugar alcohol, I think it's called, or something. Their body and brain still responded as if it was sugar, even though it was an imitation sugar. You see what I'm saying? So just because your body and brain, like your body and brain doesn't know it's an imitation beer, it doesn't know it's an imitation this or that. It just thinks that that's what it is. So when someone's eating something 0 sugar, they may still experience a blood insulin spike or whatever the case may be, right? So just because you're, drinking an O'Doul's or a virgin margarita doesn't mean your brain isn't like, yo, let's get the real fucking thing. Like, what are we doing here? Let's get another one of these and let's get a even better one. Well, that was great. Let's have one even better, Your 5 senses. Now, if you see alcohol, like you watch a commercial, right? You're watching a commercial on mute of people consuming alcohol, laughing, joyous, whatever, your brain may not be impacted that much, right? If you watch that commercial off of mute with the sound, your brain may be impacted differently. Maybe the voice, the sound, the laughing, maybe that impacts your brain a little bit differently than just watching the commercial on mute. If you are actually in an environment where alcohol is present, like if that wasn't a commercial of people drinking at a bar, if you were at that bar and you can hear it, you can see it, you can even smell it, your brain might respond a lot differently. Imagine if you can see it, you can smell it, you can hear it, and somebody says, "Hey, hold this for me real quick while I go to the bathroom." Now you can feel it. Oh.
Jimmy, my airports and airplanes are like my trigger because I used to travel a lot. So airports and airplanes, especially airplanes, because I can hear the beverage cart, and then like the people next to you will get cocktails. I can't do it. I had to resign off because I couldn't stay sober.
You can do it. You can stay sober, right? And we just have to figure out how. Part of how to figure that out begins with you even recognizing and admitting that. You see what I'm saying? Like the fact that you know that gives you an advantage over a said situation like that. So it's like, oh, well, it's like proactively planning, like for that event to occur. Like, let's say, like I used to live in a neighborhood where I fucking knew that my house, like I just lived in a really bad neighborhood. Let's say my car was getting broken into, my house was getting my house got broken into, and to prevent that shit from happening again, I bought some tools. I bought a dog. I bought a security system. I bought a fucking gun. You know what I mean? Like I went and did these things to protect myself from that type of circumstance. It's the same thing that you're going to need to do here, knowing that you may have a desire to use when you go to the airport. I'm going to have to talk to my sponsor that day. Maybe I set my flight for later in the evening or something like that so I can make it to a meeting that day after work before going. You see what I'm saying? Like knowing these things, you may be able to plan ahead so that going through those situations aren't so scary because you have a safe plan that will produce recovery if you stick to it. So you're right. You're 100%. Anybody else know of situations like that, similar to the airport, where you're like, man, I know I'm going to have a desire to use?
Airport's a trigger for me too. I work for an airline, so anytime it's really hard to not drink at the airport or when you're flying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's super expensive. But I don't know what it is about airports. Well, they have those to-go cups.
In the airport, you get a to-go cup.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Obviously, Canada.
Well, I feel like the same way with the airport, right? I feel is very similar to like going to a football game or a concert. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a large association with drinking and the airport, drinking and concerts. You know what I'm saying? So knowing those things, I can proactively take measures to either stay away from them or go through them sober. And second step is where we talk about like how we do that, right? Now,
We go way over, so it's really hard. Oh, yeah.
what's that?
We go way over, like, what do? If you Yeah, okay.
So June,
I did. What do I do if I have a layover if I'm not drinking?
Yeah.
Eating. I eat like a motherfucker, dude. I eat, dude, everything, bro. I'm like, so the way that I used to look forward to drinking at the airport, I now look forward to eating at the airport.
How do you feel?
you can page Bill W at the airport
Yeah.
and people will come to your gate and have a meeting with you.
Stop,
Where?
dude.
Where?
Yeah,
I can speak.
Yes.
you can. Every airport knows.
Wow, that is incredible, dude. I'm happily gonna share that from now on every time someone brings it up.
And they'll get on the thing and then they'll say paging Bill W to gate 12B or whatever, and then people come.
Wow. I want that gig.
Oh, yeah, they, absolutely. That's
Yeah, the
amazing.
issue for me is when that's like telling people to eat them.
Hmm.
You're gonna be like, she paged Bill W. I know, right?
Can you have Bill W waiting for me at the gate? Yeah, for me that substitute is food. Also like I have a what's it called? Like I'm not like super into video games, but when I have time, I like playing video games. So I'll bring my little Nintendo Switch, or I'll watch something, or I'll work. Like I'll work on a book that I'm writing or some shit like that. Just anything. Fucking eat. That's the number one thing, because when I have a desire to drink and I eat excessive. I mean, this sounds crazy. I mean, I got to work on this. Maybe this is why I'm 250 pounds, but I'll eat excessively. I don't want to. I just have zero desire to drink fucking anything because I'm just so full. You know what I'm saying? So that works for me too. Now, not only. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I chew gum.
Chew gum. Hell yeah. Also, a lot, dude, this is another crazy thing. All the people I hang out with are sober too. So when I go to the airport, most of the time I'm with people who are also in recovery. And I usually follow the same pattern of like eating, video games, whatever the case may be. Also, but when I travel a lot for work too, and I'm alone in airports for work, and at those times I usually like stick to the eating or whatever the case may be, and I'm also on the phone with people in recovery. So I'll usually phone a friend or like someone in my sober support network, sponsor, you know what I mean, and just shoot the shit with them while I'm going through the airport or when I'm at the airport or something like that. So those are some of the things that I do.
Yeah, it'll just be different to walk through sober.
It will be. Fuck yeah, dude. It's different walking it's different walking sober. You know what I mean? Everything is fucking different now. It's wild. So now not only is the desire to use going to come from our senses, right? But it's also going to come from our memories. Like just you thinking about the time, like we were just talking about this, just you thinking about the times when you would walk through the airport with your to-go cup, just chilling, going to, wherever, Hawaii or something. Oh, it was like so chill. I miss that, right? That may cause an emotion that gets people to want to be back in that, to feel that again. And you're going to feel the alcohol, but the whole feeling together that you were looking for before, that's never going to come back. You should just love that feeling for what it was. Be happy that you experienced that feeling and love it for what it was. And because the alcohol is a thing that's the only part of that's going to be the same feeling. I mean, when someone describes, oh, I remember when I was drinking before. It was so amazing. Man, if I could just get back to that, I can just have one more. Yada, yada, yada. And that, bro, guess what that thinking will get you to do? Have one more. You may just, you know. Did a memory of using ever lead someone to use before? Yeah. And there's no telling when a memory is going to show up. Like, what, dude? That shit just shows up. You know what I'm saying? Like with the senses, you can protect your senses. You know what I'm saying? Like you can protect what you expose yourself to. You don't have to expose yourself to drugs. You don't have to expose yourself to alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. But you can't really protect yourself from those memories that come up. So those are something that you got to kind of manage and adjust your perspective on those thoughts. So instead of thinking of those thoughts as like, good thoughts, you may want to think of them perhaps as, dangerous ones because they could lead to using again. What's it like for you when you're obsessed over something? Like, how do you know you're obsessed over something? Stuck?
You try to push it away, like stronger it gets.
Has anybody in here been obsessed over a person, place, or thing recently?
Yeah.
What have you been obsessed over?
My husband. Like things that he's like said or done, and I'm like analyzing it.
Anybody else? Anybody else obsessing over a person, place, or thing?
I'm obsessing over like dating. I'm kind of, just intimacy, or not necessarily intimacy, but just like
I thought. Did you say bacon?
dating.
Oh, dating.
Just
Intimacy.
like
Connection.
with somebody else.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is anybody right now obsessing over the end of group? People in here are like, God, when is this going to be over? What am I going to do after group? Some people maybe even, I remember I would be in group in rehab and I would be obsessing about going home to lay in bed and watch The Wire. You know what I mean? Like right now, you may be obsessing over like just going home and laying down and taking a nap. You're probably like, yo, I can't fucking wait to take a nap, yo. Oh man, it's going to be so good, right? How has that obsession gotten in the way of your recovery? Has it?
It takes you out of the here and now.
It takes you out of the here and now?
Think on it.
Why is that a bad thing?
I've lost control of all my feelings. I've become, compulsive. I've lost control. Every thought, all my energy goes into, it's draining. It just goes into, for me, the person. And I lose touch with reality. When I'm obsessing over my marriage, I've lost control with the real world around me. And I'll even kind of detach and feel like this sounds silly, but it's like I'm above my body hovering. I know I'm here, but it's that detachment. It's a frightening feeling, to dissociate from my own identity, because everything I've got, every ounce of it's all going to him. And then I can't function. I
Mhm,
can't function.
mhm,
The basic thing, I don't need to go to work. I mean, I cannot function from one second to the next. It's
mhm,
all feeling. It's the worst feeling. It's the worst feeling.
mm. Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback on just like mindfulness for me is such a powerful way to redirect or not even just redirect. I feel like I use music to redirect all the time, but to like notice, appreciate in whichever way, feeling, emotion, that situation or that feeling or that thought or that pain or whatever, whether it's physical or emotional. Just like mindfulness has been such a powerful tool for me. And that's like my crutch, like meditation, daily meditation to practice that mindfulness and then to try to take it into everyday life.
Mhm,
Try to address the obsessions or the cravings, and just like continued evaluation of life.
I have this dangerous place to be all the time. I need to be present in the moment, experiencing life right now.
mm.
That's where life is happening.
I agree. Now, everybody brought up really good points. Just consider the idea that our brains are unconsciously taking in stimuli constantly, unconsciously and constantly taking in stimuli, interpreting it to the best of our ability. Sometimes our interpretations are incorrect, sometimes they are correct. This has been happening ever since before we came out of the womb. Okay? Right? This has been constantly happening ever since before we've came out of the womb. Constantly being exposed, sights, sounds, feelings, touching, taste, etc. What our parents say to us, the environment we grew up in, whether we're eating sugar, our parents, education level, the schools I went to, how I behaved, what the kids did to me on the play, etc. All that just continuously comes in. And I mean, at what point does somebody become consciously aware of this process? Just consider that, right? First off, some people never become aware that that's how brains work. They live and die a victim to what their brains are being exposed to, never fully controlling their thoughts or monitoring them in a way that they can actually use it to benefit their life, right? And now you're talking about, when does someone become aware of the reality that we actually know how brains kind of work? You know what I mean? This is how they work. When do they come to realize that what I think and feel may be a result of what I'm exposing myself to from the past, et cetera, et cetera? Let's say someone discovers that today, right? Today is the day that they discover that what I expose myself to influences my brain and everything like that. Now comes the mindfulness, right? Like, now comes, how do I start practicing mindfulness by trying to become aware of this obsession, right? Aware of how this obsession gets in the way. Like, sitting there, Robin, I'll use you as an example, sitting there in group, trying to allow my brain or thoughts to stay focused on this instead of what happened earlier. Kind of like what we're saying, staying present, right? Staying in the moment. And those things take me away from the moment. And it's not just what I'm exposing myself to, but also these memories of the past, whether it happened 13 years ago, 32 years ago, or it happened this morning. The practice of becoming aware of our thoughts and recognizing what may be causing these thoughts, and knowing that, like, you're obsessing about this is totally natural. totally normal. That is exactly how one would expect you to act. The real power comes from managing that, like saying, all right, I'm going to think about this when I have therapy today. I'm not going to think about it now. I'm going to think about it during therapy. You know what I mean? I'm not going to worry about what I'm going to do after group. I'm just going to focus on doing group right now and allowing myself to be in the moment and take in this stimuli and make sense of it instead of being in a position where all the stimuli is being pushed on me, but I'm thinking of something else. Just because I'm thinking of something else doesn't mean that stimuli isn't impacting my brain. It is. It still is, right? And this is the key to managing our desire to use or our obsession. Our obsession is also called a desire to use, right? Like I really, really want to get high. Well, think about that. Why do I really, really want to get high? Maybe it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like the same way that you being distracted today from what happened this morning, what's been going on, makes fucking sense, dude. Maybe your desire to make sense makes sense because you're at an airport. Maybe your desire to use makes sense because you just saw a fucking beer commercial. If you're not aware of what you're doing and your surroundings, that feeling may embody you, kick in your fucking doors, and cause you to make a decision that you weren't thinking about. So the real kicker is becoming aware of this and building a relationship with that feeling, right? And what does it mean to build a relationship with it? Spend time with it, put effort into it, and you're the one who's going to have to do it. So you're going to have to spend time with your desire to use. Remember, a lot of the time these obsessions get solved with the thing that we're obsessing over. So if someone's obsessing over, like I was obsessing over running shoes. I want these new fucking running shoes. Couldn't stop thinking about them. You know when I stopped thinking about them? After I bought them. You know what I'm saying? You know when I stop obsessing over drugs and alcohol? After I get high. So what has to happen is I need to rewire my brain. And what does that mean? That means that I have to have a desire to use and not get high for that to occur. Which means I need to all this information is valuable. Knowing what caused me to get high, not allowing myself to fucking maybe removing myself from it. Like being in a situation, being like, why do I want to get high right now? Oh, that's why. That makes sense, you know? And if I'm unable to get myself out of this obsession, that's where the first step is admitting it, saying, I want to get high. This is what's going on. I can't get it out of my head. And when you say it out loud, you allow other people to talk to you about it and understand it. And you can set it aside and maybe move forward. Like Robin, you were unable to move on until we talked about that. Now that we talk,
I want to drink right now. I want to drink right now. I'm envisioning the whole process right now of uncorking the wine, and that's playing like a cyclic loop in my head. And then on top of it, I'm thinking about I've already got Chris with another woman in the future. I'm tormenting myself is what I'm doing right now. And I want to drink so bad that I am right now thinking, and it's easy here to get alcohol if I want to get it. I have money on my hip. They drop us off at places. There's alcohol. I've got access to it in recovery if I so choose to do that. But what you just said by me yelling, I want to drink in front of these people and in front of you, I'm depending on you all to fucking carry me through for a minute. I need your help. Because when I'm home alone, I feel the obsession. And I'm not going to do that. I'm stronger than this. I'm stronger and I know this.
So you're not bringing this over yourself.
I know, but I need to put it out there. I'm drinking in my mind right now as I look at you.
It's done here.
I know.
It's done. That's what we're here.
I know.
and Dude, this is strengthening you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may feel like you said, I'm tormenting myself. No, you're not. You're fucking healing, yo.
Right.
This is the healing process. It feels like you're tormenting yourself, but you're staying sober, bro. You know, like you're actually doing the right thing. You're sharing in front of your peers. You're holding yourself accountable. You've been talking about it all day. You know what I mean? You're actually doing everything right. You're not tormenting yourself. You're going through the process of healing. And dude, that sucks. It's tough. It's not easy. But it's good for you. It's the right fucking thing. I mean, it's outstanding. It's like exercise. Exercise sucks, dude. Doesn't feel fucking good. It's exercise. You know what I mean? Healing, recovering from addiction, going through these things doesn't fucking feel good. But this is a part of the process. It is the process. Yes, Alex.
Kind of just thinking about, how we've all gone through the physical dependency of, our physical withdrawals. But when it does come to emotional things, it's a lot harder for us to manage. Or I'll speak for myself. It is, for me, it's hard to even speak out, but I've gotten better and I've been practicing being like more of an open book. And that has helped a lot. But I know for me, like therapy is going to be integral for a while in my recovery, and weekly therapy, whatever it takes. But it definitely need like a way to, I don't know. I guess now it's just I don't know. It's kind of my thought. I kind of lost my train of thought too.
No, you're good. You're good. I think so now so we've talked about obsession. Now 96% of addiction recovery is managing this obsession, this desire to use, this want to get high, and choosing and engaging in behavior to not use or drink. The next part is about denial, which is the opposite of admitting. To deny that sharing it is not going to help is incorrect, right? To deny that this is not a part of the process. To, like, for instance, minimize how much recovery can help you, right? Minimizing our addiction. Like you could easily minimize, this thought's no big deal. The fact that I'm uncorking wine in my brain, that's no big deal. You know what I mean? And you could deny that actually has power. And if you deny the power of something, you might be at the mercy of it, right? Denial is the part of our disease that tells us we don't have a disease. Nah, I'm not an addict. I don't have a problem. Nope. I can handle one. I can do it. You got me fucked up. I went to that rehab thing. That was great. But what rehab taught me was how to manage my drinking. That's what I do now, right? Denial is the refusal to accept something that is true. Like to refuse that I am the truth that we are people who struggle with addiction, right? To deny that is dangerous. And not only to deny that, but to also deny solution, to deny recovery, that could be dangerous, right? Now, denial is one of those things that we use it. I mean, typically with denial, we may blame another person. We may justify our addiction on some plausible thing, but it's untrue. Like, for instance, someone may say, well, I drink because it helps me sleep. Yeah, that's plausible, but that's not true. You don't drink because it helps you sleep. You drink because you're a fucking alcoholic. You know what I mean? Plausible, but not true. Yeah, I'm not going to get cancer from smoking cigarettes. I ran track in high school. Plausible, but that's not how cigarettes and the body work, bud. Maybe you were, I was able to stay sober and kick drugs on my own in my house. Like I can leave here and just go do that. Yeah, well, apparently that didn't work because you ended up here. Like you're in rehab. You like denying these things, maybe blaming one drug, not another. People may say, yeah, dude, I'm here for, hard booze, but beer. I can drink beer. You know what I mean? They may be saying things like, yeah, I'm here for drugs, but I can still smoke pot. They may be saying things like, yeah, I'm here for like drugs and alcohol, but my doctor still prescribes me Xanax and Klonopin, This is all a part of denial, refusing to accept that maybe addiction plays a role in all these things. Addiction, maybe me thinking that is a part of my disease of addiction. The thought that I can manage these things, the thought that these things are helping me, et cetera, et cetera. We may also blame our addiction on another person, right? I'm only an addict because of that person. If this person never left me, I would have never relapsed again. If this never happened to me, then I would have never drank or had this happen, right? I mean, that is just justifying our relapse. It's justifying our using on a foundation of somebody else's behavior. That's just justifying us to continue to use. I mean, all this denial, when we continue to deny our addiction, the realities of it, what ends up happening is we reach a place called rock bottom. Rock bottom, we may have had many of them as well. Like rock bottom is not just, what got you into rehab today. Perhaps you've had many rock bottoms. Like I remember I had a rock bottom when I got caught stealing from the liquor store, when I got caught stealing at another place, when I lost all my friends from stealing from them, when I stole from the fucking country club and all these other places that I stole. All these bottoms, these were all new bottoms to me. And every single time I got there, I said, it's not as bad as that person. Like the people on intervention, they're bad. I'm not as bad as my sister. Don't be looking at me when her addiction's worse than my own. And all of this just keeps me in the shadow of my own problems. It doesn't even allow me to feel my own problems or embody them. I'm just in the shadow of them. I'm just a victim. I'm just behind this big wall of my problems. Some people, their denial may be even the fact that they think they can't even fix their problems, right? And what this leads to is despair, isolation, and keep in mind, what are we denying? Let me go back to this. We're denying that it's not okay. Like we shouldn't be drinking that much. Yes, well, yeah, I can actually. Yeah, we deny that maybe this desire to use, there's a cause to it. Maybe deny the mood we're in, the relationships we have people, the status of the relationship we have people. Maybe in denial that how I think about things is wrong. Maybe in denial about the person I can have become. Maybe in denial about what real normal behavior is. Maybe in denial about what the right and wrong thing is. And that maybe it's not just in denial. It's like the refusal to accept something that is true. Like I declare that to be untrue. That's not true. I'm not an addict. Think about how long you refusing to accept that you had the disease of addiction caused you to let your addiction get worse and worse and worse. Had I admitted that I had a problem when I was 18, maybe I wouldn't have ended up in rehab. Had I admitted that I had a problem when I was fucking 23, maybe I wouldn't have ended up here. Is it possible that 2 years from now, you may be saying to yourself, if I just did it when I was in rehab, I wouldn't be here right now?
Nope.
So if that's the truth, if that is a possibility, which it is, a very real possibility for all of us, then maybe I should take some action to prevent that from being a reality. Like, what can I do to not look back on my life? Like, what can I do to actually get the most value out of my rehab today? Like, how can I get the most value out of like every single thing that I'm going through today? Just be fucking present. You know what I mean? Just be there, be present, listen, love, learn, those type of things, you know. Sobriety is at the forefront, though. The number one thing that you have to admit is that you are not more powerful than this addiction. This addiction will win every single time if we allow it to. Right now, everyone is working towards not allowing their addiction to run and ruin their lives. And you're doing a great job at it. You're sober. It's actually working. You're fucking kicking ass at it. In order to go through and look at and make sure in order to clean up all the problems we have to look at all the problems we have. And that is what the first step does. The first step, now that we've talked about addiction, we've talked about obsession, what the first step does is it shows us all the unmanageability we have, all the times we thought we had power and we didn't, the reservations we have, the denial, the despair, the surrender, and everything. So the first step is mostly categorizing inventorizing beyond a reasonable doubt that we in fact do struggle with addiction. And today we had a big discussion on addiction. We also had a big discussion on divorce. And we talked a lot about the physical and mental dependence of the disease of addiction. And when I come back on Friday next week, we're going to talk about rock bottom and how denial played a role in leading us into rock bottom, and hopefully get into some powerlessness and understand a little bit of that. But anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that?
Thank you, Jimmy.
Jimmy, can
Appreciate
you
it.
go back to the pages that you wrote the stuff down? Can I take a picture with my cell phone?
Yeah, sure. This one?
Yeah, that one, and then the other one about obsession.
Yep. Yeah, sure. And thank you, everybody. Great group. Great job, Robin. Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Let me just take a picture. Okay, the other one?
Yep. Boom.
Cool. Thanks, Jimmy.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you next year. Have a happy new year, everybody.
Too.
Later. And for y'all, I will be live again at 1 p.m. Now I'm taking a break for about an hour now. I go live again at 1 p.m. What we're going to be talking about at 1 p.m. is spiritual awakening. So it's very similar to the discussion we had today, but it's all about how people get to a spiritual awakening. We talk about the message of recovery when we received it. What is my message? And what does it mean to share it with addicts? And how to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And then we're probably going to get into step one. That'll be from 1 p.m. to probably 3:30 or 4 p.m. I'm here live every Friday from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4. And these lectures are posted on my page at the end of every single one. I've released these lectures. I go live every Friday, but the lectures are then released on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So each week, if you're not here Friday or you like what I say, you can go back and revert to it throughout the week and hear it in like 1 hour, hour and a half intervals. So thank you so much for visiting. Come back at 1 p.m. if you got nothing to do, and we'll be streaming then.